Hello, everyone. This is Tom, your host for the Hidden Truths channel. How's everybody doing this evening? Hope you're all doing well and enjoying this, what's going to be a nice long 4th of July weekend for everybody before I think things get heated. Anyway, so everybody enjoy their barbecue. But tonight we're going to talk about, would you have celebrated the Declaration of Independence if you would have been alive in 1776 when it was announced? What side of the fence would you have been on? Okay. And I'm sure it'd probably be the same answer as today, but there might be a few that is different. But that's what we're going to talk about. Anyway, I tried a few things to talk about before cover that subject so some people can start showing up. I tried doing a live stream just on my computer here earlier, and nothing there at all. I mean, it's been a while since I've done a live stream on my computer, but it was nothing but dead air. And, it's crazy how much the algorithms have taken over. And the reason I allude to this is because we're not the only ones, us conservatives here and stuff, that are getting shadow banned and stuff. Now you got the major networks that are complaining since Google put up that new AI search engine stupid garbage, that their views are down, some of them 40%. Well, really? Well, welcome to what we're dealing with. See, on an even playing field, we all get equal time out there. Well, I shouldn't say equal time, but the opportunity equally to spread our information. And the stuff that people like take off, and the stuff that people don't like gets buried. But anyway, yeah, now we got the major networks that are complaining that their views and stuff are down. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you were telling us, YouTubers and stuff, us conservative YouTubers, that it wasn't happening. Shadow banning and censorship and all that stuff wasn't happening. But see, I guess maybe the owners of these social media platforms don't even like what the mainstream media is saying anymore, because those are the people programming. What's up? Hey, thank you for being here, Marvin. We are going to discuss 1776 today in the Declaration of Independence. And what it would have been like to be there that day on the 4th of July when the town criers were announcing it. Okay, but I'm just talking about YouTube. I'll tell you what, Marvin, I got only 309 subscribers, right? But I got 1,500 return viewers. That's like, I want to talk, if there's any other creators watching right now, could you please tell me if it's normal to have 3 times as many not 3 times, 5 times as many return viewers as you got subscribers? Because all I'm assuming is that a lot of people watch my channel and get upset and send me nasty comments. Whatever. I just, my analytics don't add up. But I appreciate everybody being here. So let's get on with the subject. 1776, you're sitting there in Philadelphia by Independence Hall, and the town criers reading the Declaration of Independence. What would your opinion or your reaction been to at that time? Because remember, this is a year and 3 months almost after Lexington Concord. Before Bunker Hill, but the revolution took a lot of time. But after Lexington Concord, they got together, surrounded Philadelphia, and kicked the British out and stuff. But anyway, it took a long time. But that's why they came up with the Declaration of Independence. They needed to make it a statement to the king and stuff. I subscribe. Well, thank you for subscribing. I got 30K return viewers and 4,000 subs. Yeah, how is that possible? How is that possible? But I appreciate you telling. And then this is another thing. Just get on YouTube. I was doing live streams, and all of a sudden it took off to where I was getting like 40 people a live stream. To within a week, I got 11,000 views in an hour live stream, and then it just, and I was getting 30, 40 subscribers and stuff. It was crazy. I saw channels grow, and then I can see how the algorithm chops them down real fast too. But don't worry, it doesn't mean we're going to shut up. But anyway, scrolling through. Anyway, how would you have reacted when the Declaration? Now, I know how I would have reacted. I was a Marine. So the Marine Corps started in Tun Tavern in Philadelphia in 1775 in November. So I know where I would have been with the Rowdy Boys. And they always sit there and say, I get a lot of comments that I need to chill out, I need to relax, and I'm crazy. Yeah, I'd say most Marines are probably a little off their rocker a little bit. That's what happens when you train somebody to run at bullets instead of away from bullets. Maybe they're, right in the senses. But anyway, I would have, I'm not that crazy because back then they were shooting at each other already. So we haven't reached that level yet. But I'm definitely going to stand by my oath and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I feel that our domestic enemies right now are a little bit more threatening than our foreign enemies. By the way, how would you react? Can you imagine a family? They had to quarter soldiers back then. They didn't have barracks for the soldiers to get in. They went to somebody's home. YouTube controls how many viewers and gives you a phrase to, yeah, I know. And people stick, I know. This is the thing. If I get off YouTube, and believe me, it's not that I want to be famous or not. I mean, this channel will never ask for money. I'm not on here for money or donations or to sell you something. Okay? You want to support the channel? Share the videos out. Get the truth out there. Because like I tell liberals, hey, we're all on the sinking ship together. And when everybody wakes up and realizes who the enemy is, like with this big, beautiful bill, what a screw job to the American taxpayer. Oh, they're going to take away taxes on tips and overtime. Yeah, and I bet you any money, they'll end up paying back double what they're saving. Anyway, just little things to throw to the little people. And then like those big bills they were passing, what they're in, when Obama was in office, those $1 trillion, $3 trillion, $4 trillion bill, spending bills where they give the American people like $400 billion and then give the rest of their friends $3.6 trillion as overbearing. That's the Marine in me, sir. I can't help it. Overbearing. That's a good way of putting it. No, I'm trying to get the message across, okay? Because it's not, I had a position where I came out west. I was a cowboy, but I had to finish raising my kids, so I was in Minnesota. Because you can't really raise kids out in the middle of nowhere, hard to get them to school. You work all the time. So I went to Minnesota to finish raising my kids, and I'm back out here out west. And it's safe, extremely safe. And you start feeling guilty when you see the world just falling apart. And then Oliver Anthony came out with that song, and boom, I got a YouTube channel. Try to sit there and at least, like I say, this ain't about hate liberals. This is pointing out that both sides are crooked. Okay, did you see Trump reining in the budget? If we don't have a foreign war that kills us or a civil war that destroys this country, becoming a third world country because of financial problems will destroy this country. It's not my fault, but I have to do something. When you join the service, I never joined it for selfish reasons. I joined it to serve my neighbors. And so people that didn't want to go, I did it to serve my country. I'm a humble person. I feel that, I don't think serving people's wrong. And when it comes to fighting for my neighbor, even if he's on a different political persuasion than me, I really don't care. Because he's American and he deserves to be free just like me. And some of us I don't know what to tell you. You can turn a civilian into a Marine or Army, and then you're on the ground side already dealing with shit. You can't, when they get out, and I didn't get out willingly. I got out when went in during Reagan and when Clinton took office, and it got the force reductions going. And, I had 8 years in, so they had to give me severance pay. But if they didn't have a place to put you, they kicked you out. And I was in an MOS that only had 52 people in it. Only 52 people. The last 3 years, I had a few MOSs. But the last MOS I had, only 52 people did in the Marine Corps. And they cut that number by 26. And you couldn't get a B billet. You couldn't get anything. So I got $12,000 in a, hey, thank you, sir. Anyway, so that's why when Trump was firing all these federal employees, do you think I gave a shit? I basically got, everybody thinks all you got to do is sign your name. Well, when Clinton was in office, it wasn't that way. Let's take a step back and ask ourselves what life is about. I believe that's it, to live life. Yeah. You should see some of my shorts. If you check out my shorts, you see I'm big into nature. And I'm out there, I fence pastures and stuff, and I'm out there in the middle of nowhere and just enjoying nature. And that's why it's really hard for me to comprehend all the hate in this world. How somebody walking down a neighborhood or a street could be dangerous. I mean, I understand freedom. I live in flyover country, okay? No politician cares about us out here. I mean, when you live in counties that have less than 2,000 people in them, where you have 4 cops in the whole county, and they're county mounties, no city cops because you don't need them. The city, I mean, most of it's rural or half rural, and they have 2 small towns. We don't have to lock your door. Where old America still exists. Leave your keys in your vehicle. Now, I wish the rest of the country could feel like me. I may come off as angry, but I know it's crazy, but I feel guilty. It's not fair I got to go on YouTube and watch people suffer. Most of it's because they want more money or they live beyond their means. I live a very humble life. I like being poor. I've lived a rich life. Fuck that life. I hate that green piece of paper and everything that comes with it. If you can't be tempted by drugs, sex, or money, they basically don't have a hold on you. I live real comfortable, right? But I was talking to my friend today. He's also my landlord and stuff out here on the farm. And I was talking, I don't lock my door, don't take my keys out of my vehicle, even when I go leave for work for 2 weeks, right? Wendell and I were talking, yeah, somebody came into your house. They'd try to steal from you. They'd probably leave you something. Because why would anybody steal from me? My stereo system's 20 years old. Who has DVDs or VHS tapes anymore? I do. Who the hell's going to steal that shit? Old analog TV? I drive a 1991 3/4 ton Ford. Great truck. But nobody wants that type of stuff. I always say if somebody's got to steal from me, they need it worse than me. So, but it's so much less stress. And I don't expect, a lot of people can't handle living this lifestyle. That's why I've been divorced 3 times. My retirement plan is to live in a dugout next to a stream with my dogs and horses. At least in a dugout, I'm not going to have to worry about air conditioning in the summertime. And, the little furnace with the heat, everything's insulated. I mean, all these people that spend all summer, 4 or 5 months building a log cabin, you know what kind of dugout you could have in 4 or 5 months? How you could have a mansion underground. Women get bored after a while. They want something better. Yeah, that's true. And there's always something better at the bar, right? Always something better at the bar. The thing is, I'm not going to have a woman tell me I can't ride horse no more. I'm not going to have a woman tell me I can't watch. I don't watch football anymore either. I'm not going to have a woman tell me I can't enjoy my life. I have a lot of hobbies. Everything from playing piano to riding horse. And a lot of stuff in between. I'm not going to be restricted on that no more. I'm not going to be told no. I'm not going to get my heart fucking broke. Okay? You want to live a life full of debt? I have 2 bills. My car insurance and my cell phone bill. Well, plus my rent. And my electric bill is about $15 a month. Everybody like, $15 a month? Yeah. Like I got rid of air conditioning this summer because I decided I am going to live. I always tell people on my prepping channel to try to get back to the colonial days. And I should practice what I preach. That's why I'm sitting here in front of the window, because I got a breeze blowing and stuff and living like the olden days. I tell you, I'm going to fight technology no matter how much I got to suffer. Bad times. But anyway, no, I enjoy this. It humbles a person. I'm cool. I have to work. I had this guy on my live stream. I can't believe he ain't here tonight, calling me spray on tan, right? He goes, you got to get rid of that spray on tan. No, I work in the sun all day. Okay? So since I got to work in it all day and I'm sweating my ass off, coming to this, it feels pretty good. Okay? So I enjoy it. Anyway, yeah, but let's get back to 1776. I can get sidetracked on my live stream, on my chat. But anyway, how would you react? Now, remember, 80% of the population did support the Constitution. The Revolution. Now, I don't think that number supported the King, because if that number would have supported the King, the Revolution never would have. The British would have had way more soldiers. So that means maybe 60% want to stay out of it. But anyway, would you have been one of them? Can you imagine a country? They weren't even a country. They're a bunch of pissed off colonialists, right? And they're basically saying, no more raping our women, no more coming in our house. We're not, like the saying, quartering soldiers. The Third Amendment to the Constitution, no quartering soldiers. Or the Bill of Rights. Third Amendment, okay? Because they didn't have barracks. Soldier could walk up to a home, especially if you saw a young daughter there, say, I'm going to stay here. I've actually sat there and read diaries of British officers about the court-martials they had of the sexual assaults. They said that a maiden couldn't even sit there and pick a flower without afraid of being ravaged by the soldiers. Crazy times. Since you won't read the chat, I'm out of here. Again, you're not bright as think you are. That's fine, sir. You don't have to stay. I'm not. See, this is one thing. This thing a communist show. Communists, you're forced to sit there and listen. Okay, here you're not. And like I said, I don't pay a lot of attention to the chat because I have things to say. But eventually I will. Remember, I'm just beginning here at this YouTube. So, nobody's perfect. You know what? And the thing is, sir, if you don't like my channel, and I'm sure I'm not the only channel you don't like, start your own channel. I believe every citizen in America should have a social media platform channel so they can voice their opinion, not hide behind some name and get on chats and say nasty things, but actually have a channel. Okay? You notice that on my shorts, my thoughts of the day, my questions of the day, my little thoughts, I don't do a post and write it on a post. I say it into my camera, my phone, because I want you to see me saying it. He's venting and he's doing well so far. The thing is, can we turn this country around? Do you think I want to spend my close to retirement years in this stuff? We're dealing with things that could go really south in 20 years to where Let's go, the sky's the limit. Where you're not useful to society no more. So society's really not going to spend no money on you no more. Can we get to that? A lot of people would say no. But we got to the point in this country where a white person is a racist piece of shit criminal, right? Where whites, they're going to try to treat whites, especially white men, like the Jews got treated. They'd have no problem killing us. Why? That's not what 1776 was about. They were sick of being told, they were sick of the fighting, okay? All I know is all these people got together and were pissed, and they were taking on the mightiest military in the world. And after the Declaration of Independence and Breeds, we'll call it, but it's Bunker Hill, right? Let's not teach history correctly. But after that disaster, the first real engagement with the British, they got chased all the way up to New York until the end of 1776, when Washington was about to lose everything, and they crossed Delaware and got Princeton and what the hell? Princeton and oh my God, I can't remember. That's terrible. I should get slapped. Somebody throw it in the chat real quick. What Princeton? I want to say Yorktown, but that ain't right. Princeton and anyway, somebody put it in the chat who it was. The other one but see that turn, he saved the revolution. A lot of people want to say Donald Trump's the greatest president out there, and I completely disagree with that. I mean, the man that sacrificed for this country, and he could have lost everything if he lost, was George Washington. He had all the responsibility to keep the military together, had to deal with Congress. I mean, Congress was just as inept back then as they are now, if not worse, because they were just starting out. He had to deal with all that. And then dealing with untrained troops. That's one thing. I made it short about this. When it comes time for our next disagreement with the government that comes, right? The one thing our George Washington of our time will have that our first George Washington didn't have. He will have a trained military of vets and a fully equipped military. Because I'm sorry to tell you, people of Washington and politicians and the President of the United States, we may not have control of those weapons now, but we bought them. We paid for them. And when it comes time to confiscate them, we'll easily confiscate them because we can easily run them. Vets on ready. I know. You ever feel like you're standing by to stand by? Or you feel like you're in a chopper circling a hot LZ and you're looking down through the windows and you're screaming at the pilot to land the fucking helicopter so you can go down there and do your job, and they will not land the helicopter so you can do what you're trained to do? And the civilians just don't understand that. You're like a police dog that's being told to stand down when the police dog knows he's supposed to act. But we're all supposed to settle down. Even though I'm going to therapy. You ever thought about going to therapy? Why? So I can sit there and look at everything that's going on in the world and start agreeing with men can have babies and all that other stuff? Is that why I need to go to therapy? Is that what all us patriots need now is therapy? Just imagine that the patriots in 1776 would have all got therapy and decided instead of the revolution. Solving problems is not somebody needing therapy. Somebody who hides from their problem is people that need therapy. Okay? And if what listening to the truth upsets you and you need therapy for that, I don't know what to tell you. Don't come to this channel then. But it would be best to maybe listen. But like I say, I was a Marine. Tell me I'm a little off my rocker? Really? Maybe it's because what I had to experience, because what the government put us through. Because of politicians there and stuff. And then the VA don't give a shit. And all you people that want to say that too about me, I did go to the VA for help. You know what? They gave me a clean bill of health. I am perfectly fine. And I was completely honest with them. So I don't know where you're coming from unless you're whatever. Think Washington picked up troops in Princeton and Trenton. That's what it was, Trenton. Thank you for telling me that. Who was that? Drake. Thank you for telling. I couldn't remember Trenton. I don't know why Yorktown popped into my mind. But yeah, look at that, man. They want to say Trump is the greatest person. He was writing letters to Washington. He was writing letters. I think he told John Adams, wrote a letter to him. I think it was John Adams, that he would never have wished his situation on his worst enemy. He never would have wished his situation he was in on King George. And he didn't blame nobody for it. Where do we got politicians today? Blame this person, blame that one, until they finally blame the lowest man on the totem pole. And we get a few pickings from the bottom. Anyway, in 1776, I'd have been celebrating it big time. About time. I would have said it's about time. Just like I'm going to say it this time. It's about damn time. Because I saw this coming back in 1994 when I first got out of the Marine Corps. Believe me, when I went in when Ronald Reagan was in office, his last term in office, and I got out when Bill Clinton was in office, and even though you come home on leave, you really don't observe anything. And it was like going through a serious time warp. Okay, from the tractors having, all of a sudden tractors had 12 tires on them, all that type of stuff. You were seeing the forest through the trees. And ever since then, I knew back in 1994, all this was coming. It's like I could see the change, how we went from Reagan years, me being a Reagan Marine and still having that mentality, to coming out to the Clinton years and seeing the socialism and the hate and discontent that they were creating. Hell, we had Timothy McVeigh. We had Branch Davidian. Nobody ever got in trouble for that. And then we had that little Gonzalez or whatever his kid that was pulled out by, Democrats against INS. ICE, right? Let's not forget Bill Clinton. And what was that little kid's name? Gonzalez. But you remember the famous scene of them with the SWAT or the ICE with the machine gun pointing at the kid as they're hiding him in the closet. Politicians, they blow with the wind, man. Whatever sounds good at the time. Okay, but I will admit the Democratic Party has been hijacked severely since the Bill Clinton days. But I've seen it coming since then. I never thought it would get to the point where we had a scam-demic and people would run around wearing masks and signing a waiver saying that, hey, basically you're a guinea pig. And getting mad at people that won't do it. Like I say, through that whole thing, I went to work every day. I made a lot of money, but I never wore a mask. I never got vaccinated. I went never social distance, never went the right ways, went the wrong ways of the arrows in the stores and stuff. Anything to go against the game, as Simon said. And I was in the state of Minnesota. One time, well, a couple times, but I'd walk into Walmart and they'd start saying, sir, you need to wear, and I turn around and look at them, they'd shut up right there. The only place that I'll never go back to and threaten to call the cops on me for trespassing was Menards, and they can kiss my ass. Okay? I know what my constitutional rights are. All these other people don't know what they are. Also, all you people that followed the game, as Simon says, check out what the Nuremberg Code is that protects all citizens of the world from medical tyranny. You know, this is what happens when you have an education, especially when you studied history. You can just see it happening all over again. Like the pandemic, right? I'll be honest with you. When they were talking about China and it was going crazy, I went to Walmart. I was already a prepper, but I went to Walmart and spent $1,000 and got everything I would need for a year. So let's just say I wasn't out of toilet paper during the toilet paper crisis, because one thing I remember hearing, I don't remember hearing it where I heard it from. I can't remember. Well, when a society collapses, and this is true to the bone, the first thing that disappears is the toiletries, okay? Whether it been the Roman Empire, when Russia collapsed in the 90s, toilet paper, okay? I guess I was the only one that was taught that. I don't know why. But anyway, but I studied the 1917 and the 1918 Spanish flu about 28 years ago. 28 years ago, I did a real in-depth study about it. So, I knew a lot about what happened and stuff. So, I'm driving around and I'm noticing some things. How come I'm not seeing, I was in a smaller town area, what you big city folk call smaller towns. But the hospital parking lot was never full, okay? And I would never had to stop for a funeral procession. There was never daily funerals at the cemetery that I had to drive by every day. Okay, there was just certain things that weren't adding up, and it started to come clear to me. See, the thing is, and then I had a guy at work went in to get tested, right? And wasn't going to fill out the paperwork, was waiting in the line and said, screw it. Went home. We got a notice 2 days later that he had tested positive for COVID. Now, what's that supposed to tell me? See, it was all about control. They used like the pandemic, kind of like 9/11. To gain more control. They would see who would bite. And, anyway, crazy time. Like I say, I studied a lot of history. And I can see when politicians are pulling their bullshit, okay? Especially, when all the people connected with the pandemic needed presidential pardons for things that they might have done. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Like I say, that if you like the channel, hit the like, subscribe, and the bell notification. That's the best way you can support the channel, because I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it to get my country back. People talk to me about being passionate. Hell yeah. I want to get my country back. I don't need money. Okay? I'm sick of the IRS. Let me keep everything I make. What I make between my pay between me and my boss. Let's go to a federal sales tax. Then you get taxed on how much your spending habits are. But no reason they don't want to go to a sales tax like that, because all of a sudden you're going to see what they call the consumer price index. Isn't that what it's called, where what people spend is going to go down at first. But when people realize how much extra money they got in their wallet, they're going to go spend. I mean, when I made good money, I paid a hell of a lot in taxes. And I refuse to spend any more of my time than absolutely necessary paying the goddamn government. That's why I will take a job where I'm underneath the radar. I'll go to poverty level, because then my money's mine. Don't mean to throw you off. Didn't mean to throw you off. But yes, they want to see how many people they could control. Yeah, it's amazing. And they controlled a lot of people with fear. The best way to stay healthy is to stay in shape. You want to lower your drug prescription costs? Get in shape. Get a gym membership. And start out slow at first, even if you got to start walking around the gym and build yourself up. Make goals. Get up to pickleball and then get up to lifting. And maybe doing a little bit of basketball. It's because you're 70 years old doesn't mean you have to sit there and do layups and running up and down with 25-year-olds. But Stay healthy, people. I mean, I got the VA, but I never go there. I never have to go to the doctor. I haven't been to the doctor in so many years. I don't have high blood pressure. This is why I push a lawnmower and use them all, and just do stuff by hand and stay fit. I'd rather sit there and work a hard job and sweat a little bit than sit there and sweat what the doctor's going to tell me after I waited 2 hours and $1,000 so he could tell me bad news. But you'll never have a doctor sit there and say, hey, I could probably drop a couple of them prescription pills I give you, save you $500 a month. If you go to this gym and get a prescription, and I'll wean you off the stuff, you get into shape, and let's get you off this once a day shit. How come every medication is once daily? When I do remember going to the doctor, if you had to go there, you went to the pharmacy and got some pills that you took for a week or 10 days, and you were better. You have to take a pill again. What the hell happened to those days? 1776 on that day, I believe the Constitution was actually adopted on July 2nd. But it was ratified on the 4th or something like that. But it had already passed on the 2nd. But do you imagine how would have I reacted? Well, obviously, after Lexington Concord, I'd have been one of those militias surrounding Philadelphia. Because that would have been the spark to say the game is on, the war has started. But see, that year that they had, year and 3 months before Bunker Hill, Breeds Hill, they should have been doing a little bit more planning to take on the most powerful country in the world, like some serious training. But anyway, everything happens for a reason. Then we had to have a European come over here at Valley Forge and teach our soldiers how to be soldiers. I don't remember his name either, but the drill manual was taken from him, okay? So maybe his story on where he came from and his credentials weren't all up to snuff, but the guy obviously knew what the hell he was doing. That's one thing about our revolution and the Declaration of Independence. The people that heard it all over the world could identify with it. It caused the French Revolution. When they imploded it on that, they made Napoleon the emperor, and then we all, phew! First Hitler. But anyway, people were motivated by that. They were, my God. See, this is the thing I don't like about YouTube. A lot of people don't want to be on YouTube, but you want to listen to somebody that identifies with you. And that's the thing of freedom of speech. You should be able to go on any social media platform. Anyone, no matter who who owns it and what their political bias is, and get to watch what you want. So it just gets people so they can't organize. Back in 1776, the Marine Corps was created in a bar, a tavern, where a bunch of people got together and said, hey, I got an idea. I can't remember who that was. Oh my God, my memory's out shot tonight. But anyway, the Army had their 250. And the Marine Corps is going to have their 250 on November 10th. When the country was forming, with a bunch of pissed off individuals that were sick and tired of what everything was going on. America the Beautiful. I'm listening to you. America the Beautiful, yeah. And we need to stay that way. That's one thing, like I say, amber wave, amber waves of grain. When the wind blows, a wheat field right across the road. Every time I see the amber waves of grain, that's all that comes to mind. I mean, this is where people that didn't fit in Europe in that back in the day came. You know, they were willing to risk their life coming across the Atlantic Ocean on a ship that took months to get the hell away from where they were at, to go out to the wilderness full of Indians and nothingness except your own ambition to stay alive and create a life. And they did it. And they built a nation, or individual states or countries, as they called them back then, that governed themselves. See, this is one thing about our colonies. We still were governed by ourselves. You know, we had our own internal political system. And then Britain, just because they allowed it. And then Britain just put an end to that when they wanted to punish the people. Okay. Not to say that neither side didn't have the right to believe what they believed. I mean, King George, and thinking that, hey, the colonies need to pay for some of their protection because it costs a ton of money, the French and Indian War and stuff, to make sure the colonies are safe, because there may be a few countries that would like to sit there and be in control of them. But not to the point where you're persecuting the people, robbing their wealth, like what's happening now, robbing our wealth. This is one thing on my channel. If you would go to my latest short that I have, it's 1 minute and 24 seconds long. I think it's the American Crisis 2, I named it on here. I got it on a couple different channels. And watch it, and share it, and spread it. You'll like it. But you'll see I fucking love our country. So do I. And then I get excited, especially being a Marine, want to stand up for my oath, the American people, the Constitution and stuff, against all enemies, and they ridicule you. What the hell's wrong with people? Like you say, if you had an enemy coming down your street and you had a foxhole in your front yard, who would you rather have in there? Crazy ass me or some soy boy? Well, if you check out that short, I made it a year ago. But have things changed that much? If Donald Trump can't change stuff, and he's the president, and they're going to stonewall him again and everything, and then they're going to get another Democrat, soy boy, okay, well, you better be prepared to protect him then, because he's going to be right behind you. Anyway, but not everybody's meant to be a ground side of a military either, so. But everybody will have their part. But yeah, things are going to get messed up. And, you know, the spirit of 1776 is still out there. Now I'll take you, Tom. Well, you know, like I say, you can turn a civilian into a jarhead, a Marine, but you can't turn a Marine back into a civilian. It doesn't work that way. Then they got to use the sledgehammers they do. When you still make your bed, I mean, some of the stuff, the discipline that was installed in you and stuff, and then you just, yeah, a lot of us believed when we got out our oath was over. Or maybe not over, but it would never come to a point that we'd have to sit there and be in a position to form a military again to fight our own government. Okay, that thought never crossed my mind in 1994. But well, guess what? We're here. You know, I got kids and I got grandkids. I got a grandson that's got to go to school with a litter box in his room because somebody in his class thinks he's a furry. Okay, so it affects me. All these illegals that come up here illegally and all these employers that want to hire them And since I'm in a humble jobs where I don't want to get rich, I got to compete with these fools. How's that fair to an American that he's got to compete with? Well, not only the illegals, but all the other ones that come in here illegally, like from South Africa, the 100,000 plus that are here from South Africa, taking agricultural jobs. Because we need them here because Americans don't want to sit there and do anything with their own food production. Good, then they should starve. But the last thing I need is job competition because Americans are lazy. The employers are helping the cartels. Yeah. Get rid of the jobs. If they start punishing the employers, okay? Like in Omaha, Nebraska, they're having these busts at these packing plants. If you're going to play the stupid card, then we'll throw you in the stupid prison. But see, this is what's going to solve our illegal immigration problem. Number one, the dollar becomes worthless and the peso becomes worth more than the dollar. They're all going home. We go to World War III and we start getting bombed, especially, let's say, small nuclear bombs in cities. They're all gone because they're going to realize south of the border, they're a lot safer than north of the border. Now I realize what I'm coming to, the destruction, when the politicians completely destroy our country, then we're not going to have to worry about illegal immigration. Because I just don't think Zimbabwe has to worry about illegal immigration. Anybody disagree with that? Or we can enforce the laws on the books, and I like alligator Alcatraz. But, like I say, you want to get rid of illegal immigration? All Trump's got to come out and say, hey, all you American citizens, legal American citizens, and make sure you can prove it, there's $1,000 bounty on every illegal's head. Go make yourself some money. If wherever you're in, drop them off at this area, and you got 10 of them, we'll give you $10,000 and take off in your 10-passenger van and go get 10 more. Within 48 hours, 90% of them would have left. See this thing, when America puts its foot down and says we will have no more, and we involve the American people, because I think the government needs help. There's too many of them. That might happen. Yeah. I mean, I had a discussion with the sheriff of my county. And I said, how many illegals do you know that? Because he was telling me that years ago, because we have the interstate that goes to the county, Interstate 80. And he would sit there and say how years ago they would call ICE right away if they picked up an illegal, and they would be there to get them. Now, Trump says they're doing something, right? But he told me these days, still, they can pick up a carload of them and call ICE, and obviously nobody has a driver's license, and they got to let them go because ICE won't come and pick them up. Straight from his mouth. So I said, how many illegals are in this county that you won't do anything about? See, there's nothing. The government can't stop the American people from doing it. There's no order saying the American people can't round up these illegals and get rid of them. It's not against the law for the American citizen to organize and get rid of these illegals. The Supreme Court rules, can rule over the executive branch, but the executive branch it rules over the government, not the American citizen. If the American citizen understands the Constitution, understands the Declaration of Independence, and understands their role in this country, they would bond together and we'd get rid of these illegals and the problems. And then we'd deal with the politicians that cause the problems. Anyway, this 4th of July, we got a great country, and we've let it be taken over by criminals that can't even be touched, even when they did the most heinous crimes, like the Epstein list. But we can't bring that out. We let people know what's going on, the whole world will collapse. So you tell me the whole world's being run by absolute criminals that think you're just a fly that can be squashed, and your children can be raped, and they can't be held accountable. because they just are too prestigious. Anyway, love you, brother. Taking care of my dogs. Good. Have a good one. Later, brother. I appreciate you being here. I don't care if liberals are here. The one thing I don't have tonight is people insulting me, but then again, YouTube's really hammering down on the channel. I always call myself the biggest little channel on YouTube. It is crazy. Like I say, my return viewers keep going, but my subscriber count is just in the toilet. It's like, whatever. But see, as long as the message is getting out, especially if you don't like hearing it and you're coming back and watching my shorts, my thoughts of the day, the question of the day, the stuff that really pisses you off, that means it's staying in your brain housing group. And if I can get you to think about that all the time, maybe it'll get your liberal thoughts to sit there and have to defend what you got on this side of the brain. Okay? Anytime a liberal has to try to defend themselves with illogic, it never works. I made a short one time saying, the happiest person in the world is one who goes to bed a liberal and wakes up a conservative. And don't confuse conservative with Republican. Don't do that. Just like you can't compare liberal with Democrat. The Democrat Party has been taken over by the liberals. And the Republican Party has been taken over by a conservative Democrat or a conservative liberal. It's both liberal. They both spend money like it's crazy. Big, beautiful bill. One big, beautiful bill. Let's see if it's beautiful for the American taxpayer. Oh, no, we're up to the 5th generation that hasn't been born yet. We're stealing their money so we can live our lives. It's crazy time. All it's going to come to bite us in the ass. But in 1776, that would have been a wonderful day. The 4th of July, when the town criers called out the Declaration of Independence to say we're finally going to teach these bastards a lesson. And yeah, when they got schooled at first, but who ultimately won? But I do believe that our war that we have with the Revolution, Civil War, whatever, will look more like the Civil War in the southern states, where we had more partisan attack, with more people against people, the British playing the people against each other and stuff. There was a different Civil War in the South than it was in the North. And I think we're going to, in the Southern Civil War, Revolutionary War, I'm sorry. The Revolutionary War was a lot different in the North than it was the South. And the Southern Revolutionary War was a lot more bloody, and a lot more just nastier than what was fought in the North. So anyway, that's what I think is coming to. Because you know what? They're propagating all this hate and discontent, telling you to hate your neighbor, okay? And what are wars between your neighbors, the most deadly there are. We don't even have families that get along anymore. The only ones spend Thanksgiving and Christmas together because they believe a certain way politically. I didn't grow up like that. I think it's silly and stupid. But this is the world we live in. And all this hate eventually is going to explode. And I hate it when communists and the other side quote the Declaration of Independence. They were dealing with tyranny. We're nothing like the country was when it first started out. Okay, the founding fathers would not approve of what's going on. For one thing, no foreign entanglements. Wow, that went out the window. So much, imagine how much money we could have. I watched a show on World War II and how Germany could have been different if Hitler would have spent all that money on making Germany better than war, right? And all I can do is relate it to now. The same thing. Anyway, so Oh, I've been on almost an hour. Appreciate everybody being here. But yeah, how would you have acted on 1776 with the Declaration of Independence? Would it motivate you even more to go to war? Or would you say, sat there and curse the patriots for taking away your convenience and start rocking the boat? Well, I'm glad they rocked the boat. And I'm glad we had a revolution. Our founding fathers were men. A lot of them may have been rich and successful, but they had to fight for every penny, okay? And obviously they liked their fortunes more because they were willing to go to war for it. But they were men that cared about everybody. And yeah, there was a few flaws that people can say, but remember, when they created this country, they needed to create a country. And slavery and stuff was just an issue that had to be compromised at the time. It couldn't be tackled. So anyway, but we did have the 3/5 clause now, didn't we? But anyway, everybody have a great night. Appreciate you being here. Share the video, like and subscribe if you would. And I'll see you guys all tomorrow night. And if you are planning out to go out on the 4th, make sure to be safe. This is going to my prepper channel, Loma Prepper Lives. And I'm going to give out safety tips for that. Okay? Crowds. Just a lot of stuff. Anyway, head on a swivel. Can't even sit there and enjoy the 4th of July without these morons protesting No King's Day. Why don't they go to the beach or the lake and have a barbecue and enjoy it? Maybe take a day off from protesting and being angry. Wow, wouldn't that be something? Actually find a reason to sit there, look at your neighbor and smile at them and say hi and shake their hand. Wouldn't that be great? If we had a whole day of peace and we all celebrated the glory of the United States of America as all American citizens. Nope. We're going to have a No Kings protest. So I guess cops aren't even going to be able to sit there and enjoy their 4th of July. Anything these people can do to inconvenience somebody. All I got to say is if I go somewhere, like if for some reason I had to go to Denver and I have moronic people sit down in front of me or blocking the lane, I'm hitting the gas. Okay, I'm going to run your stupid ass over. If you're too stupid, put your hand on a hot stove and just sit it there and then put your other hand on a hot stove, you're brain dead. You don't have the brain cells or the ability to exist. You stand in front of a moving vehicle and you're too stupid to know that it can kill you, and then you want to assault the people in it, and they don't have, that's one thing with a liberal. These people that do that protest. You're not allowed to defend yourself. They're just allowed to attack because they know these little beta males, pieces of shit, and these screaming ass moronic women don't stand a chance. Maybe if us conservatives held them accountable for their actions, and maybe if we got just as nuts as they did, counter-protesting them and put the beat down on the sons of bitches. If they try looting a store, you just put the beat down on the sons of bitches. Just have a bunch of cops, like I say. Anytime the government needs help, the American people, especially the vets and patriots, are here to help you. Because it looks like you're losing control. And you're spending a lot of money. Anyway, we'll see how the illegals work, but we got millions upon millions upon millions of them. And get rid of them, you know what? Even 1,000 a day? That's 365,000 in 1 year. He's got 4 years. That's what? 1.295 million? Really? Boy, he's going to make a dent, isn't he? Even Barack Obama got rid of more faster. Anyway, that's all I got to say for tonight. I've been on for an hour. Appreciate everybody being here. Like and subscribe. Like I say, we need to get the truth out there. And enjoy your 4th of July. Don't be ashamed to be a white American, a black American, an Hispanic American, or anything. Be proud to be an American. Anybody calls you Uncle Tom, or I don't know what they would call a Spanish person that is a conservative, whatever. Flip them the bird and say you don't understand. We all belong to the human race. But I do believe that the human race is maybe splitting into 2 subspecies, where you got the ones that are medicated and losing their minds and morality before reality, meaning that you can sit there and screw your boyfriend because you live in a different reality. Yeah, the human brain is changing. I wonder if the pharmaceutical companies have anything to do with it. Anyway, I said too much. That could get me canceled. Happy birthday, America. I appreciate it, The Guardian. It's like, glad you're here. Yes, happy birthday, America. And to all Americans, feel proud. Okay? This is every American's day. This is what the founding fathers gave us, a day to celebrate their sacrifice and their willingness to do whatever it took to make sure future generations can celebrate the beginning of our country. And I appreciate it. I definitely don't hate them for it. I love the freedom I had as a child, which was nothing compared to the freedom my parents and my grandparents or their grandparents had. But I can see it now that I have kids and grandkids. They're not as free as I was. And they work harder, they make more money, and they work harder, and they struggle worse than their mom and I did. And it hurts. And I got a grandson that goes to school with a litter box in his room because somebody thinks they're a furry. When mental illness isn't treated, it eventually gets worse. Just like when men wanted to sit there and get married. And then men thought they sat there and thought they could be women. And then that never got treated. And then all of a sudden men think they can have babies. You see how mental illness progresses? I just hope Leah Thompson is crying in his beer over getting his medals and his trophies, his bullshit taken from competing against women. And I do believe he should be charged with indecent exposure and other sexual crimes that he committed while in the locker room with other women. I don't think he should just be stripped of his medals or title or whatever. I think he needs to be prosecuted. There needs to be a message set. You want to be a weirdo? That's fine. In this country, you're allowed to be. Just keep it to yourself and keep it out of the public eye and don't hurt anybody while you're doing it. And if you find somebody that's just as cracked as you are, then you got a partner. But guess what? You don't get married. You know, I heard this guy celebrating the 10-year anniversary of the Supreme Court decision that men can get married. Okay? And he's talking about, you remember how they just wanted to get married? And then he's talking about how far they've gone in the next 10 years in their agenda for the future. I thought you didn't have an agenda. I thought it was all just so you guys could get married. Lying pieces of shit. Now we see what the agenda is, right? Just like back in the 70s. Want to go back a ways? Remember that commercial, a mind is a terrible thing to waste? And they had a black child on there, everybody needs to go to college? Remember that? like it was a terrible thing if a person could become a free-thinking, intelligent person who thought for themselves, became successful. No, they meant to become a brainwashed individual that believes everything you're told. That's what they really meant. Because after 50 years, I see what that commercial meant. It's amazing what I picked up just as a kid, isn't it? A little kid. And can compare it to what I see in today's world. Yeah, they want everybody to go to college. Number one, it got the colleges rich. Look at the football stadiums college campuses have now. Look at all the student loan debt we have now. Okay? The students still got to pay the money. Maybe it should be university loan debt. Okay? And then they get these kids in college and they completely brainwash them. Your kid leaves school, a hardworking, conservative young man, grew up on a farm, milking cows, and comes out with colored hair like Pauly Shore on Son-in-Law. Perfect example. Right? He had his before picture that he showed that the lead woman, and he turned into that. And we all laughed about it. It was funny. But now we're living in the reality of it. How's it feel? Well, I look at life real strangely, don't I? That's what happens when you can remember stuff. And you know a lot about history. You want to see what path our country's taken? Just read up on Rome. We're following Rome perfectly to the T. And the thing about Rome that's going to surprise the hell out of me, that's so funny. Rome was divided into two countries at the end. In the Western, the European part of Rome, when Rome fell, went into the Dark Ages for hundreds of years. But what happened to the eastern part of Rome, Constantinople? It blossomed, it grew, became a great... The light was on there, but the light wasn't on in Europe. And that could be the same thing that's going to happen when Rome falls this time, because everybody's connected to the dollar. And you want to be connected to a failing currency with nothing to back it up? That's the West or the euro. And we're all going to fall into well, we ain't going to have to worry about illegal immigration or welfare no more. But, the politicians may have to worry about the welfare with pitchforks and torches in their hands out on the street. Anyway, crazy times. Crazy times. I gotta get off here tonight. I've been going too long. I could go on all night. This country's got so many problems. But yeah, we're living a nightmare. Not a nightmare. We live in a twilight zone. And like I like to say about the Twilight Zone, the main character who lives in reality and thinks reality is always losing their mind on the channel. The show, right? The main character left reality and went to an alternate reality where people or whatever the actions are not right. And they're losing their minds. And everybody's looking at them like, what's wrong with you? That's what we're in right now. Like I say, morality before reality. These people actually think that. So they're living in an alternate reality anyway. And they're trying to rule the country. The problem is, we need to stop listening to them. The problem is, we need to start treating mental illness. Okay? The problem is we need to start putting everybody to work. The problem is we need to stop having politicians telling everybody that your neighbor's your enemy. Stop spreading division and hate. Anyway, like I'd say, check out my short that I made, uh, Constitutional American Crisis 2. I think that's what I called it. Whatever. You'll see it's 1 minute 24 seconds long. If you like it, share it. But it may, I like it. Okay, it took me, from the time I sat in my chair and thought about it, it took me 10 minutes to be making the video on YouTube. That's how fast it came to me. But we were living under Biden then. Things were pretty stressful, okay? Anyway, appreciate everybody. Check that out. Help that video. YouTube has canceled that video. They will not let it out. They hate it, but it doesn't break community guidelines, so it can't be canceled. So if you could help spread it, I'd appreciate it. Everybody you know. And, our government needs to know it works for us. And we're not taking this no debt shit, going into debt anymore, deficit spending. And we're definitely not going for lawlessness. If you are rich and powerful enough, you can do what the hell ever you want. Especially treasonous acts and extreme nasty crimes to children. Anyway, that's all I got for tonight. This is Tom with Hidden Truths. I'm out of here.